A very good morning to all. Welcome to the digital masterclass session. My name is Nidhi. I am a math facilitator at Meru International School. Mathematics plays a vital role in every wake of our life, whether it's time tracking, grocery shopping, cooking, making a work or study timetable, driving, or while playing. We extensively use mathematics. Learners enjoy learning mathematics, appreciate it when they are able to connect it to their everyday life. Our topic for today's session is statistics in our everyday's life. When we scan through books, newspapers, magazines, or even TV, we see a lot of information in the form of graphs. One such is on the screen. This shows the rainfall of a place over a year. Now, this stats we are all very familiar with because all of us love to watch IPL and cricket. This shows a summary of the runs scored by a batsman. Now, this could be an analysis of the grade of the class, which the teacher creates after an assessment. Statistics is a branch of mathematics that is used to collecting information, reading and recording the information, presenting the information, and interpreting the information. In today's session, I would like to explain about the statistical cycle of collecting, recording, presenting, and interpreting information or data. The first step in the statistical cycle is data collection. Data is nothing but information that we gather. We can gather information through observation, maybe of an activity or a scientific experiment. Or we can gather information through an interview or an oral interaction. We can ask questions to people and get our information or data in the form of their answers or responses. We can also roll out a questionnaire to collect information in a more formal way. For example, if I'm organizing a party at home, I would roll out a questionnaire to my guests, asking them of their food preferences. This would probably help me in planning my menu better. Or from database, or the data that is already collected and stored. So data collection is the first step in a statistical cycle. Once we have a data, the next step is data recording and organizing it so that it is easy to understand and easy to interpret. One way of recording data is using a frequency table. For example, if I collect or measure the heights of different students in my class, I can then record it in a tabular format. This is a frequency table where height shows the class, that is the unique data or unit height which I have measured of my students. And number of children is the frequency, that is the rate of occurrence. Sometimes the data might not be a single value, but a range of values. For example, instead of measuring the height of my class, if I do so of the entire grade 5, then I would record data in the form of a range of values here. And this is the class interval. And number of children gives the frequency of occurrence. That means that 10 children have a height in the range 121 to 130 centimeters, whereas 25 children have a height in the range 131 to 140 centimeters. Another form of representing data is a tally chart. Now, tally chart is used to record the count as and when we get it. For example, if I'm conducting an election in the class to appoint the monitor, and these are my candidates, as and when the votes are recorded, I would record it using a tally mark. Now, tally mark gives me an excellent way to collect information without error. Once I collect all the information, I will probably do the total. So the result would be instantaneous. I have the winner as I am counting. So We have seen how we can collect the data and also record our observation. But data recorded in the form of frequency table or tally chart is useful, but it is not impactful. To make the data impactful and easy to interpret, we need to present them in the form of graphs. So a next stage of a statistical cycle is data presentation. There are a wide variety of graphs, charts, and diagrams that are available for us to present our data. Let's look through some. The first is a Venn diagram. I think this is a name which we all are very familiar with. The Venn diagram is used to classify information as per their similarities and differences. Now here is a Venn diagram which shows one circle as the herbivorous animals, the other as the carnivorous. And the data in between is the common characteristics of both herbivorous and the carnivorous. Now let us use a data set and represent it in a Venn diagram. Horse. I would put horse into the herbivorous category. Dog as an omnivorous because it exhibits the characteristics of both herbivorous and carnivorous. Lion. Lion is a carnivore. Bear is an omnivore. Cow is a herbivore. So this represents data and we can easily classify it based on their similarities and differences. The next form of a diagram is Carroll diagram. Now, Carroll diagram is used to classify data based on two criteria. So here we have two criteria. One is multiples of 3 or not multiple of 3, and the other is an even or an odd number. When we have a data set, 15, 24, 32, 14, 11, 30, we can classify them based on two criteria. Say 15. 15 is an odd number and a multiple of 3. 24 is an even number and a multiple of 3. 32 is not a multiple of 3, but it is an even number. 14 is also not a multiple of 3 and it's an even number. 11 is not a multiple of 3 and it's an odd number. And 30 is a multiple of 3 and it's an even number. So when we classify information based on two criteria, we can use the Carroll diagram. The next is the most common form of graph, that is a bar or column graph. This is most frequently seen and it's really colorful and easy to understand. Here is an excellent example of a column graph. It can be represented horizontally as well, and then it would be a bar graph. Now, this is very colorful, easier to understand and interpret, and easy to work on. So, looking at this graph, we can easily say that the fruit that is liked by most is blueberry, and grapes is the least preferred fruit. Line graph. Line graph is used to represent continuous data that changes over time. Here is an example of temperature. It changes as the day progresses. The upward line of the line graph shows an increase, whereas the downward graph shows a decrease. Pie chart. Pie chart is a circular graph that is used to represent data with respect to the whole. For example, this is Ram's daily schedule. So it shows the time he spends at school with respect to his entire day's activity. It clearly shows that he spends most of his time in school, equal time doing his homework and sleep, and a very little time in play. Waffle chart. Waffle chart is very frequently used these days if you open your mobile phone and check the battery status. It is used to show the progress with respect to the whole. Conversion graph. Conversion graph is used to compare two quantities and convert one unit of measurement into another. Say, I would like to convert an imperial unit to an SI unit, or convert one form of currency to another, or even a distance and speed graph. It can easily be identified with the help of a conversion graph. So I have one such conversion graph here that I'm converting the SI unit of measurement into imperial unit. So if a graph is constructed, it's very easy to get the conversion. 4 kilograms would then amount to about 9 pounds in the imperial unit. Similarly, 16 pounds would be a little more than 7 kilograms. So is it not very easy to do conversions using a conversion graph? Data presentation is fun, and it also helps us to interpret information very easily. So the next step, or the last step of a statistical cycle, is data interpretation. The first key word in data interpretation is the range. The range is nothing but the spread of data from the lowest to the highest value in the distribution. For example, let's go back to the example which I had cited initially. Height of the children that I have measured in my class. Now, if you see here, the spread of data is from the lowest value of 120 centimeters to the highest value of 150 centimeters. So the range is 30 centimeters. This is the graph which shows the temperature of Hyderabad over a span of 8 days. If someone asks me what's the weather like in Hyderabad, it would be absurd to say that on Sunday it is 36 degrees, on Monday 34, on Tuesday 35 degrees. I would rather represent this data by a single typical value. That's what average is. The typical value to represent the data set. There are 3 kinds of averages: mean, median, and mode. Let's learn about them in more detail. Mean. We use mean when the data set is limited and the range is small. Here is the test marks of a student in 6 tests. To find the mean, we add all the values and divide it by the number of tests, or the frequency here. So the mean is 84. Let's look at what median is now. I have another data set which shows the salaries of different employees. Kevin and Angel have a lower salary, whereas a manager has a very high salary. Now the range of data here is large. If I try to find the mean here, you would observe that the mean is $9,000, which is a lot of deviation from Angel and Kevin's salary. So the mean here would not represent a typical value of a data set. In other words, what I would rather do is arrange the data in increasing order and find the middle value. This would give me a more appropriate typical value. So a median is used when the range is quite large. Next is mode. If you look at the data here, that is the temperature of a place, you will see that some data is occurring frequently. So in a data set where there is frequent repetitions, the frequency or the most occurring data is considered as a mode. So the mode here would be 34 degrees Celsius. So when we have a lot of data or the data set is huge, then we typically find the most frequently occurring data and consider it to be a typical value. In today's session, we learned about the statistical cycle, and there are 4 steps to statistical cycle. First, data collection. Second, recording and organizing data, which we can do with the help of a frequency table or tally chart. The third is presentation of data. We have a wide variety of graphs which we can use as per our convenience to represent data. And finally, data interpretation. I hope you really enjoyed the session. Thank you.
The MCLAP program is integrated into most subject lesson plans and has block periods allocated to it for its implementation right from preschool to senior secondary. The primary years, the child learns team building, collaborative, socio-emotional skills, hard and smart working, positive attitude skills, and many more which are required to build a great institution and a great society. Exposed to careers, profession and industries which are grade level appropriate. When you come to middle school, there are 100 to 120 hours of carefully curated MCLAP program which basically revolves around all of the above at a higher depth. There are regular aptitude tests that are conducted. Basically, the Meruvian is pushed into researching for his or her own future. which is a very exciting space to be in for a child or a parent or the school. For example, if law is picked up as an area of interest, the parent and the child are informed about the job description, the social and emotional intelligence skills that are required for that particular job, the challenges that come with the profession, the famous personalities of that particular industry, the universities and the examinations that need to be written to get into these universities, etc. All these are informed to the parent and the child to make a conscious decision. Along with this, 1 or 2 weeks externship program is designed based on the profession, career or industry the child picks. It's mapped to the child and it has to be pre-decided, so that we have enough time to curate that kind of program for them. All this enables the child and the parent to make a conscious decision which is more methodical, research oriented, passion oriented, based on capabilities and abilities of the child, and most importantly, happiness is the reason why a child should pick up their future in this manner.